Today, to find one in original condition is a rarity.
On the road, headed back to New Orleans.
Now, this is a very, very special car because it was used to smuggle heroin.
Big birds were singing
This is the Queen's car in our collection.
down the lane.
That's my dad in his motorcycle racing days. He used to race for India.
He was the man.
Yeah. This, my father made for his 7-year-old grandson. And it's got a kinetic Honda engine and it's got these little scooter wheels and there's no gears, but you put your foot down and it goes.
Guys, that there are only 970 of these made in the world, and one of them is right here. Oh my God, Farah, you've made this into a veritable museum. What have you done? This is fantastic. I've never seen it like this.
These cars were just parked, like, go down, one behind another. And I thought that, my dad needed to see these cars properly.
Yeah.
So for the 21st of March, which is Parsi New Year, I just decided to surprise him with this.
This garage that I'm bringing you today on the show is really special to me because I've kind of seen it growing up. My rallying partner Farah is, should I say the owner now? Because the true owner is really here, Zaheer Vakil. He's being very camera shy today, so Farah is going to walk us through the garage. But I've driven these cars, I've participated in vintage car rallies with these cars, and they've been a large part of our life over the years. So this garage is a special one. So Farah, I think it's just duty bound that we begin with your favorite car.
Yeah, this is absolutely my favorite car. It's a 1966 MG Midget. And it's the smallest car, except of course for the Austin. I think it's even smaller than the Austin.
Yeah, these were light cars. They were really fun cars to drive.
And they were competitive cars. They did time trials, they did rallies, they did hill slopes, hill climbs. So these were cars that people really enjoyed, really had fun.
Which is exactly why it's your favorite car.
That's what it's
I know these MGs were really fun, and I remember driving one of these round when I was living in England. They're just incredible handling cars, but they're very nitpicky cars as well.
They're troublesome.
They're troublesome. They have a lot of hassles.
But most European old cars are troublesome.
Yeah.
So Renuka, this is the Austin Atlantic, 1949.
It was the first one to change the front end. Before this, they used to have those upright grills.
Exactly.
And this was the first one to get this.
High beam also in this
in the
letterbox type of grill. Also, it's got a curved windscreen. It broke away from the normal Austin
styling, so
style.
You can see this low grill, which is the letterbox grill, and of course that central lamp. What I love in the cars that were from the past is all these little details, the hood ornaments, the stripes down the bonnet. We don't see detailing like this much anymore, do we? Chrome and bling was in fashion back then as well. The thing about this car, Farah, that I've heard is that it was prone to a lot of rust. And it was very difficult to restore.
They were very difficult to restore, Renuka. Daddy bought 2 of them, identical the year. This is, I think, a 49 and that was a 51. And he bought them both in a heap. And the restoration of these cars has taken very, very long. And to bring them up to this level has been a real effort.
We have a another special car here. And it's a bit special because of its engine.
Yeah,
this
it's
is
called
the
a stove bolt engine.
Yes.
Now you explain what a stove bolt is.
So the stove bolt engine is because it had these 1/4-inch bolts, which were like the bolts of stoves or furnaces in those days. You know, another thing about this was the first one to get a mechanical fuel pump instead of the vacuum pump. So a lot of different things about it. And this was one of the first muscle cars they had, and it went up against the Ford Model A, which was like the most popular car of that time. So a lot of history in a lot of your cars, Farah. Very interesting. And then of course we have this beauty over here, the Packard Custom Super 8. Large engines, no?
Gangster cars.
Gangster cars. Large engines and these lovely waterfall grills that were there in all these cars. I just love this detailing.
Actually, the Packard came out as a very luxurious car.
Yeah.
It was a luxury model for...
They were luxury models, but they had these large engines because, you know, everybody wanted that power and status and appeal at those point of times. But I love detailing. I mean, you look at the indicator lights. They always had those strips down the bonnets. The bonnets always open in the butterfly manner, and I have to open this bonnet to show everybody because I just love this little lever. And this Packard Super 8 was also popular for its inline 8, which was a 5.6 liter engine and really powerful at that point of time. So really supercars, but as Farah said, let's look inside because it's super luxury as well. I think this is one that's special to me because I've always loved the Jeeps in your dad's range, and unfortunately this is the only one he has left, but he had a lot of others.
He's had a stream of Jeeps. You know, Ford made these same Willys Jeeps under franchise.
Yeah.
Because Willys couldn't keep up with the demand of World War II.
Yeah.
So they gave it out to Ford, and Ford made 10 times more than Willys could make. These were called combat wheels, which allowed the car to go almost 100 kilometers on a deflated tire.
In those days.
In those days. Today, of course, you have
we think of run flats and things like that, but
so
in
today
those
is different.
days.
But at that time, you know, to have a car that was able to go that distance on a flat tire was something special.
This was an absolutely popular car. Ford Model A was the runaway success, I think, for Ford. This was a car that changed a lot of things for them. I think Henry Ford said this is a car that's going to wipe the slate clean and make them start afresh. So a lot of new things on this car. And you know, we were just talking about technology that we see in our cars of today. This car had hydraulic shocks at its time. I was kind of looking for these large shocks with coil springs around them, but they were just what they call knee joint shocks. So that's the way it functioned in those days.
It was the first car which had shatterproof glass.
Yeah.
Safety, what they used to call safety glass. It
Yeah.
was the first car of the time that came out with that.
Of course, here we have what I folded out for you.
It was called the mother-in-law seat.
I was just being polite, Farah.
It was to throw her at the back so you didn't have to put up with her.
Yeah, so you just chucked your mother-in-law at the back, so you didn't have to really put up with her. These are the things that are the joy of these cars, yeah. I mean, you see it happen in movies and all, but it's just an irresistible pleasure that you get in doing exactly that. This was also a very popular car, and I think this was the one that started
But you know, this was a very cheap car. It was a very cheap car, and it was a car, because it was cheap and considered a throwaway car, they used it for all the hot rodding.
Yes.
So these cars were fidgeted and fiddled and lots of them. So today, to find one in original condition is a rarity.
American beauties here. I see one very proper stand-up British car, the Jaguar XJ6. Standing lonely in its corner over here. It's been like tucked away at the back here.
That's why it's in the corner. It's hidden. It's hidden from view. In fact, this car was built to try and match the Silver Ghost, the Rolls-Royce Silver Ghost, in luxury. My dad made some decisions which I would have perhaps made differently. He had 5 Jags at one time, a Mark V, a Mark II, many others. And 5 Jags together he sold to a collector, a Jaguar collector, because he had this thing about American cars.
Roadmasters in your dad's collection. Is there a reason for the Roadmaster being favorite to him?
I don't think it's the Roadmaster, it's just per se the Buick. Like I said earlier, he had 14 Buicks. He was called the Buick Man of India. Nobody in India in their collection had 14 Buicks at any time. Now this is a very, very special car because it was used to smuggle heroin. Back in the day, it has apparently been built with huge spaces under the fenders and around the wheels and in the chassis, and it's got huge spaces where people used to smuggle heroin.
Well, it kind of does look like that gangster car, but this is the car that really changed the styling, yeah? This is where the styling went into that fin tail which you see at the back, and you get all these really chrome bits and a lot of bling around the car, the different grille in front. This car just had a very different, edgy kind of styling to it of those times compared to, you know, the earlier versions of this car, the Invicta.
Invicta means unsurmountable.
Yeah.
You know, unbeatable.
Unbeatable.
Yeah.
It kind of does look like
you
that,
know?
doesn't it? I mean, it's huge.
It's the longest car that Buick ever made.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the longest from bonnet
tail
to tail.
Well, you look at the length of that fin tail that goes right on the outside. I mean, and there's just such beautiful detailing, you know, the double lamps in front. You look at that square slotted grille. Just walk around this car, just take a look around it. I mean, because it's definitely one to soak your eyes on. This is a car that I know.
Yes.
This is a car that I know and I love because I have driven it in a lot of vintage car events. This was a car that was entrusted to me by Uncle Zaheer.
And this is the flagship car of his collection. This is his favorite car in this whole lot. This is his car.
Yeah. So this is the 1939 Buick Roadmaster. And what you can see here is this split waterfall grille, which is quite a highlight of this car at that point of time. Of course, you see the protruding lamps over here. You see the side-mounted spare wheels also on this car. And I can tell you that this car is very, very, very large to drive. Just so cool. Winding windows. I love manual things, you know, digital, electronic.
This car, Renuka, has a lot of history. In 1951, after the coronation of Queen Elizabeth II, she and His Royal Highness Philip came to India as guests of the President Rajendra Prasad ji for the Independence Day parade. And she was in India for about 5 or 6 days. And over those 5 or 6 days, she was given this car.
Wow. So this
is the Queen's car in our collection. Actually, if you look at that board, you can see a picture of her in the car.
How lovely. A 5.2 liter engine, and it had 152 HP. So not bad at that point of time. Today, a 5.2 would give you a lot more output than that. Once again, lots of details to see. Just look at the, I'm sure it has a special name to it, but I'm really not well versed with it, but I'm going to call it an arrowhead kind of hood ornament over here. The protruding lamps, the fog lamps down here. Of course, that large grille again. I think chrome was really, really loved in those times. Right? I can see it all over the car in many places as well.
And this car was really made to be plush because with its red leather interior, and it really befitted being given to the Premier of England to use. This is the oldest car in this collection. It's a 1947 Buick Super 8. My dad had bought many cars before it, but in this collection, it's the oldest. This was bought from the Maharaja of Vasara in Gujarat and brought on a truck in very bad condition. And again, it has been restored back to this condition by our people here in this garage. This car was used by the Maharajas on their hunting trips.
Yeah.
That's why it has this spotlight. And they used to very often carry they used to hunt with cheetahs, you know, and they used to often carry their cheetahs in the car. So they'd have a big straw and canvas mat made, and often the cheetah rode with the Maharaja beside him on a chain. And when they wanted to hide the cheetah, fat karke the hydraulic roof would come up, and the cheetah would be out of sight.
Push buttons of the radio, if you look at them, it says B-U-I-C-K. So Buick is spelled on the push buttons. This had a very large boot.
This is a Ford Custom, 1949. This also we had two, a 49 and a 51. And they were very, very different. They looked the same till you looked. That one didn't have this third eye.
One that's watching you all the time.
The one that's watching you.
And I like this little, again, a different hood ornament, which looks like a little tomahawk haircut. Like the punk rockers had.
This was also built as a luxury car.
And
you know, although it's not a convertible, it was built as a luxury car.
And last but not least, we have the little baby of the bunch, the baby 7.
When I have a little niece, and when she was 3 or 4 years old, when her brother got that little car, she kept saying, "Mujhe ye chahiye, mujhe ye chahiye." And this was her car. If you asked her, "Which is your car, Anya?" she'd say, "Austin, Austin." This car had rear brakes on the pedal and front brakes on a handbrake.
And this actually was one of the first cars, the first mass production car to actually have the clutch, the brake and the throttle in the position as we know it today in our cars. This was a car that was at, I think it's around 360, 370 kilos. It was really, really light.
It's a 690cc engine, so it's a tiny little engine, but a light car. That's why Dad in his motorcycle racing days, he used to race for India.
He was the man.
Yeah. And this Renuka is my grandmother. And this is a car that I'm going to take you and show you, which is now being restored by us again. The paint, the chrome, we're in the process of doing it. I'll take you and show you that. Where in the garage, I showed you a picture of my grandmother besides that car. This is the same car.
That's being restored.
It's a 1947 Chrysler Windsor. We're restoring it again.
Farah, it's been such a pleasure coming back and sharing all these memories and these wonderful cars with you. Thank you so much for sharing this with me. And Uncle Zafi, special thanks for making that effort and being here with us and sharing all your knowledge with us. I want to tell our viewers, while you've seen this on YouTube, you can actually come here and see this in person. Would you like to tell them how they can do that?
Just call me. My number will be at the bottom. And make a date with me, and I'll either bring you myself or be happy to put you in touch with someone here who will take you around and show you everything.
So this little mini museum is open for all of you to come and see as well.